Hey, what's up? So it's been 2 years now. Wow, time flies, doesn't it? Just feels like yesterday was 2020 and I had just put my name down on this. And I got it in October of 2020 and it's now October of 2022. So it's been exactly 2 years. In the 2 years that I've had it, I've done just over 20,000 kilometers, which isn't that much. There should be a fairly quick video, I'm not really sure, given there's not too much to say, but we'll start off with reliability. So this was my biggest concern when I bought this, but in all honesty, in the past couple of years, I couldn't be happier with it. I've had a total of 0 breakdowns, 0 mechanical faults, and no instances of rough running, failure or hesitation to start, things like that. But I have replaced some worn components like the bushings, wiper blades, and I've just maintained it with the usual fluids and filters. But in saying that, there are a few things that annoy me about this. So there is a couple of rattles here and there from it, mainly above the headliner. I've tried to remove that and fix it up and tidy it up as much as I could, but being an old car, I really need to spend at least a couple of days pulling the headliner down and then just going through the whole thing, and that should sort out the rattles and squeaks. It's not too bad, it's just there enough for me to notice, and I'm pretty picky about things. But the next thing that annoys me about this is it needs more gears. It's only got 3 gears, and I now drive constantly with the ECT power button on because it feels just so much more responsive. Without the ECT power button on, it goes from first to second at 10 kilometers an hour, which is about 6 miles an hour, second to third at 20 kilometers an hour, and then third to fourth at 40 kilometers an hour. So second is almost like it's redundant. If you have the ECT power button off, you may as well not even have a second gear because it shifts into it so quickly. And then you just end up like basically having to put way too much accelerator down, and obviously it's the RPM is way too low for the gearing, and you're just making it work and labor. And so I've realized now, if I push the ECT power button on, it's so much more intuitive. It just drives so much better. I don't care if it uses a little bit more fuel, but I'm pretty sure it's easy on the gearbox as well, because it's not, you know, being loaded up from no RPM whatsoever with all the engine torque. The only downside of running the ECT power button on all the time is if you're going up like a really big hill or something, and you know that, you know, if you're up to like 80 kilometers an hour, to turn the overdrive off like that, and then it'll lock the torque converter in third, and you'll have direct drive, and it basically stops the engine overheating, gearbox overheating, all that. But if you take the overdrive off to put it into third with the ECT power button on, it doesn't lock up. It'll do it in fourth, but it won't lock in third if the ECT power button is on. I found that out the hard way because I overheated it going up a hill. Not too bad, but yeah. So yeah, it really does need more gears. Ideally, you'd put in like a... Hello. Excuse the moustache. Ideally, you'd put in like a 5-speed, just straight 5-speed gearbox with locking torque converter and things like that, straight out of like a Land Cruiser 120 Prado. But you know, that's maybe something that I might want to do down the road. But yeah, definitely 3 gears plus overdrive, not enough. So I made videos on this previously as well. One of the headlights is faded. I've tried polishing it, wet sanding it, doing everything. The yellowing is on the inside of the headlight, so I've decided maybe I might, you know, crack the lens open and try clean it up from the inside, but in reality I think I'm just going to get some new headlights for it. The next thing that annoys me about this is the seat that I'm sitting in. The driver's side seat cushion foam base, try saying that, driver's side seat cushion foam base is pretty badly worn just on like the outside edge, like just where my leg kind of goes here. You can see it like crinkled up here, and if I like grab onto it, it feels like something's chewed it, like it's being chewed up, like the foam's just, it's got like indentations in it. And no matter what I do, like I tried massaging it out and stuff, but it just doesn't come out. So at some point I will get like a replacement driver's side seat bolster, not bolster, driver's side seat base foam cushion. Is that it? I think so. I don't know. Yeah, whoever sat on the seat for many years, by the looks of it, wore like a utility belt or something, and whatever you had on that utility belt just down on the right hand side here squashed the hell out of the seat. The next thing is it chews a lot of diesel, so I figured out that no matter what I do, really there's just regardless of how I drive and stuff, it seems to average out at 14 liters per 100. So it gets to about 400 kilometers per tank when the fuel light comes on, and when I fill it up, it usually takes about 59 or 60 liters, and it's a 70 liter tank, so that tells me that there's at least 10 liters left in there, meaning it's got a true range of about 500 kilometers, but I'd never take it to full empty. But it's normal for these vans, I guess. My mum's got a Prado with the same engine, and she gets much better fuel economy. I get that it's very big and very heavy. It's like moving like a garden shed around. But yeah, I wish it was a little bit better on fuel. And I think having that straight 5-speed gearbox would probably account for a lot of the fuel savings that my mum's Prado has, because it's basically the same weight and the same engine, just the different gearbox. Some of the dumb things that I really regret doing is putting this crappy tow bar on. I feel so bad every time I look at this. I really wanted a tow bar for just the versatility of having a tow bar. If I wanted to take my mountain bike and put the rack on it or something, it just would have been nice and easy to do so. And my parents have a boat in New Zealand, so I'm sure at some point this would tow the boat, because it's still destined to end up in New Zealand. Long story short, this tow bar was listed as being compatible for this car. I bought it. It was like 400 bucks. It took like 6 weeks to arrive. They had to build it apparently, and then once it finally got to me, I was so eager to get it fitted, but then no tow bar shop wanted to install it. Oh, what a nightmare. And then I took it to my mechanic, and we realized that it wasn't clearing the chassis rails. It was bent in from the welding. So by that point, I rushed off to like a fabrication shop, a metal fab shop, and they put it on a jig and stretch it out, and they charged me like 120 bucks for $160 for like 20 minutes of doing that. It was mainly for like the inconvenience to them, because they were really busy. And anyway, I went back to the mechanic, and we realized that we had to cut off one of the chassis tie down points. The other one just unbolted. So we ground that off, and then we realized that nothing lined up, and I was too far invested into it by then. So we put 2 bolts in up the sideways on the driver's side, and nothing at the bottom because nothing fit, and 2 bolts up the bottom of the passenger side, but nothing on the side because nothing fit. And so the mechanic then just welded the bar onto the chassis, and I was like pretty cool with that. I was like, yeah, you know, it's going to be strong and stuff and this and that. But the more I thought about it later on, I thought, you know what, that's probably not the right way to do it. You know, having high tensile bolts put through with cross tubes and things like that is definitely just the best way of doing things, instead of just trying to hack weld it on. And yeah, so I don't even like the look of the bar. Like, it sticks out too unceremoniously. I like the hitch style that you can just remove the hitch. You can unbolt this, but I'd rather have like the hitch style that kind of tucks up underneath, and it's not so prominently sticking out from there. Anyway, after this bar was tacked on and welded on, I decided to get a second opinion. So I went to, I'm trying to play with the camera here, went to a tow bar shop, and they basically drilled up, oh my gosh, sorry, bad angle. Yeah, so they basically drilled up underneath here, that's one of the bolts, and they went through the chassis rail into the floor and stuck that on. And then on the driver's side, they managed to get 2 more bolts up from underneath. So, oh god, where is it? Up here. I don't want to burn myself on the exhaust if you can see it. There's a couple of bolts here that go through the chassis into the floor. But yeah, I got to tidy up the wiring and stuff back here as well. So, you know, the $400 tow bar ended up costing me like $1,300. You pay that kind of money and you don't have a lot of money to start with. And yeah, you don't feel very good about it, especially if you're not happy with the end result. So when I get some money up together, I'm gonna unbolt this, cut it off and clean up the chassis rail, strengthen everything. And I think I might use bits of this, but really I think I'll just make a custom tow bar for it and do it all up nicely. Next disappointment with this is, you think like full-time 4-wheel drive van, basically a Prado underneath using a Hilux surf rear axle and things like that. And then you look at how much clearance you have underneath and you're like, oh my god, like you bottom out running over a frog. So you can see that air dam under there. Why is that? Oh, it's the wrong way around. So you can see the air dam under it, which is obviously lower than the front cross member or subframe there. Apparently it's 17.6 centimeters of clearance, and I did measure it. It was about 17.4, I think. But yeah, it's just way too low to the ground to actually go anywhere off-road decently. But yeah, it's really deceptive, because when you look at it from, I've said this in another video, if you look at it from like here, you're like, oh my gosh, so much clearance. It's really high off the ground, but then yeah, you actually get to, it's only like the transfer case and that sort of front, where's my pointy thing? That front cross member, that's probably the lowest point, and then the transfer case back there, which hangs down quite a bit. On the list of things to do, one day I'll lift it and get some bigger tires, because the bigger tires will give you the actual clearance off the ground too. But yeah, that's one of the things that is a little bit disappointing with it. One of the things that I really regret about this is the underbody coating that I put on. I was really happy with it at first. It sprayed on really well and it dried to like a hard Raptor sandpaper kind of texture, and I thought that was how it's going to be. And then one day I was doing some work to this underneath it and I spilled some oil or something, and I sprayed brake and parts cleaner to clean it off, and I just basically covered myself in tar, and I realized that the underbody coating just melted off with a brake cleaner and basically dripped all over me. And so it wasn't like an enamel based underbody coating or something like paint where you can spray brake and parts cleaner on and wipe it off. And it's kind of soft and chalky. It's made to be self-healing, but yeah, I don't like it because it's just, where's there going to be more sunlight? Yeah, I just don't like it because I'd rather have a more hard, durable finish. Like, yeah, it looks alright. Like, it's not soft or anything. It's just not how I imagined it to be. If I could now, I'd just go back and clean it all up and spray it with the normal underbody enamel. Like, I'm gonna stick my fingernail in here, and you can see like a bit of black tar came out. So I just want like straight paint. And what I should have done is just cleaned up the body panels, which were originally out of the factory primer grey. So this and this stuff on the side would have all been primer grey, and I should have just redone it in its original primer grey and painted like the bash plates and all the subframe and everything. Anything bolted to the body would have been just gloss black. So I think I'll do that. I'll just add it to my list of things to rectify that I've screwed up. I give I give viewers a lot of shit about you know, ruining their vans and doing too many things to it, and then I do this sort of stuff to my own, and that's why I say don't mess with it, because I'm a dumbass. Other than that, it's just been a reliable and useful little companion. It's starts and chugs along. I love the way that it sounds. In one of the recent videos, I forget which one, it's the first time you guys actually were able to hear it running properly and driving. And I got a couple of comments about what exhaust it has and things like that. It's all original. Yeah, it just sounds really great. It's like a little tractor. And you know, 2 years on, I'll drive it back to my house, park it in my apartment garage, and I'll walk to the elevator, and sometimes I'll just stand there and not push the elevator button because I just want to stand there and look at it and admire it for a while. And yeah, I mean, because I live in the apartment, I don't get to... Okay, I gotta stop parking where I do. There's the first time I notice all the paint coming off here. So I park it up against a concrete wall, and I've put like bubble tape over that concrete wall, but it's obviously damaging the door. So yeah, something I learned. But yeah, when I get out of the apartment garage, because I live in an apartment, I don't get to see this. It's not in my garage, it's not in my driveway. Can't just look outside the window. And yeah, whenever I see it, I just stop and stare at it for like quite a while. That's the other thing I like about it. It's just got so much presence. When I was coming back from another state, my partner was picking me up in this. And like, out of all the cars coming to the airport and stuff, like I could just see like the glass on the roof and like the contrast between like the black and the white and then the gold and the wheels and everything. It just looks so unique. The videos don't do it justice, and obviously if you've got one of these, they just have so much presence. Like, people do take notice of them. You know, I still love driving it. The novelty hasn't worn off. I honestly thought that, like, after, you know, when you've had something for a year or so, like the honeymoon period goes away, and where is it? Yeah, the honeymoon period goes away, and you kind of get used to it, you get bored of it, and then you start looking elsewhere, like, not just with cars, obviously with relationships and things like that, but yeah, with cars too. People are like, oh yeah, it's great, it's great, it's great. Oh, you know what, I think I want a Land Cruiser. I think I don't want the van anymore. I think I want to get a normal sedan or something. But for me, the first time ever, like, the honeymoon period hasn't expired. I still obsess over this thing, and when I do fantasize about, you know, my life in the future and things like that, this is always in that picture. Like, it's probably sitting alongside another car or two, but it's always going to be there with me. I keep saying I don't really have anywhere to film, and so when I do come out, I'm normally like trespassing or something, and just kind of, I look real dodgy and stuff, and people get a little bit worried about my presence being around, and yeah, just I have to rush through it and I lose track of what I'm saying. I spend, you should see it, I spend like days refining like all the things that I want to say, and bullet points, the types of words that I want to use to make it just really clear and concise and fast, so I'm not just, you know, yapping on about random things. And then I come out here and like, I can see the groundskeeper's house is there, and when he comes out, he's probably going to come out and say, hey, what are you doing? Like, are you a member of the golf course or something like that? And then get out. So yeah, it's so hard to film. So yeah, sorry about all these crappy videos. I promise you they will get better.